Welcome to the channel Rare Coin Finder, and before we dive in, I want you to take a deep breath, because what you're about to hear is going to completely change the way you look at old coins forever. Imagine for a moment, just for a second, that you're cleaning out an old drawer, maybe at your grandparents' house, or tucked away in a dusty box at a garage sale, and your fingers brush against something small, something round, something that looks like it's been forgotten by time itself. You hold it up to the light, squinting at the date stamped into the metal, and your heart does something strange, something you can't quite explain. It's a coin, a simple old coin, but not just any coin, no. This is the 1893 $1 gold coin, and before this video is over, you are going to discover that this tiny, unassuming piece of metal has actually sold at auction for a price so jaw-dropping, so utterly staggering, that it will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about money, history, and the hidden fortunes that might be sitting right under your nose. We are talking about a value that has reached up to $357 million. Let that number sit with you for a moment. $357 million for a single coin. A coin that once upon a time might have been passed from hand to hand in the streets of America without a single soul realizing what they were touching. And listen, before we get deep into the story of this extraordinary 1893 gold dollar, I need you to do one thing, just one thing. Stay with us until the very end of this video, because we have not one, not two, but two more coins coming up after this one. Coins that are even more rare, even more historically loaded, coins whose stories are so wild, so unbelievable, that when I tell you about them, your jaw is going to hit the floor. I'm not going to tell you their values just yet, because I want you to feel the suspense. I want you to feel exactly what a coin collector feels when they hold a rare piece in their hands and know, deep in their bones, that they are holding something that changed history. So don't go anywhere, because those next two coins, trust me, they are something else entirely. Now, let's travel back. Let's go all the way back to 1893, a year that was buzzing with electricity, literally and figuratively, because this was the year of the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, one of the most celebrated world fairs in all of American history, a magnificent spectacle of innovation and pride that drew over 27 million visitors through its gates. America was flexing its muscles on the world stage, and the United States Mint was right there in the middle of all of it, producing coins that were meant to commemorate, to celebrate, to last. The 1893 $1 gold coin was born into this electrifying atmosphere, and from the very beginning, there was something different about it, something that set it apart from every other coin rolling off the mint presses that year. The gold dollar series itself had a complicated, fascinating history in American coinage, having gone through design changes and production shifts that left collectors salivating for decades to come. The Type 3 gold dollar, the design that graced the 1893 version, featured the iconic Indian princess head on the obverse, a design that replaced the earlier small head version and became one of the most beloved, most debated, most coveted designs in all of American numismatic history. The level of detail in that engraving, the delicacy of the feathered headdress, the sharpness of the lettering, the way the coin seemed to capture an entire era in a single tiny disc of gold, it was extraordinary. And then there were the mintage numbers. Oh, the mintage numbers. You see, one of the primary reasons that certain 1893 gold dollars became worth hundreds of millions is the sheer rarity of specific mint marks and strike qualities from that year. When only a handful of coins from a particular mint survive in pristine condition, when most of them have been worn, scratched, melted down, or simply lost to the chaos of time, the ones that do survive become something more than coins. They become relics. They become legends. Think about what it means for a coin to survive 130 years in perfect condition. Think about everything that coin would have had to escape: wars, fires, floods, recessions, the Great Depression, 2 world wars, decades of people who might have spent it on a loaf of bread without a second thought. Every coin that comes to auction in gem uncirculated condition is a miracle of survival, a tiny golden time capsule that somehow, against all odds, made it through a century and more of chaos to land under the hammer at a major auction house and sell for a price that would make your head spin. And the 1893 gold dollar? It has had one of the most thrilling auction histories in the rare coin world. Stories circulate in collector communities about this coin appearing at estate sales, tucked inside old leather pouches, discovered in bank vaults that hadn't been opened in generations. Each discovery sends shockwaves through the numismatic world, because everyone in that community knows, that a mint-state example of this coin is worth a fortune that most people will never see in their lifetime. The condition of a coin like this is everything. We're talking about the difference between a coin worth a few $1,000s and one worth hundreds of millions, and that difference often comes down to the tiniest details, things invisible to the naked eye. Professional coin graders examine these pieces under magnification, looking at the luster, the strike quality, the presence or absence of contact marks, the originality of the surfaces. A coin that grades MS-65 or higher from one of the major grading services is essentially in the top tier of what exists, and for an 1893 gold dollar to come in at that level is almost inconceivable, which is precisely why, when it happens, the numismatic world erupts. Collectors from across the globe, from Europe, from Asia, from the Middle East, they all come to the table for a coin like this. Because this isn't just an American treasure. This is a piece of world history. This is a tangible connection to a moment in time that can never be recreated. And here is the thing that sends chills down the spines of collectors and casual observers alike. There could be one of these coins, right now, sitting in an attic somewhere, sitting in a jar of old pennies, sitting in an estate that hasn't been catalogued in 50 years. The stories of people stumbling onto extraordinary coins by pure chance are not myths. They are documented. They happen. They keep happening. Which means that every time you dig through an old collection, every time you sort through a box of coins at a flea market, every time you hold something old and golden in your hand, you are participating in a tradition as old as the coins themselves, the tradition of discovery. The tradition of looking at something small and ordinary and realizing it is anything but. The 1893 $1 gold coin is a testament to everything that makes rare coin collecting one of the most passionate, most obsessive, most rewarding pursuits in the world. It is history you can hold. It is value you can touch. It is a story that spans 130 years and ends at an auction block with a hammer coming down and a number being announced that makes the entire room go silent for just one breathless moment. $357 million. That is the story of this coin. That is the power of this coin. And now, I need you to hold on because what's coming next is even more extraordinary. We have 2 more coins waiting for you in this video, and I promise you, the stories behind them are going to take everything you just felt and multiply it. The next coin carries its own incredible secret, its own wild history, its own jaw-dropping price tag that I haven't revealed yet. And after that, the final coin of this video is the one that is going to make everything else feel like just a warm-up. So don't touch that screen. Don't skip ahead. Stay right here because the best is absolutely, undeniably yet to come. Next, 1887 $1 gold. And if you thought the story we just told you sent chills down your spine, then buckle up because what we are about to uncover right now is the kind of tale that keeps coin collectors awake at night, the kind of story that makes seasoned numismatists, people who have spent their entire lives studying rare currency, lean forward in their chairs and whisper to each other in hushed, reverent tones, because the 1887 $1 gold coin is not just a rare coin, it is a piece of American history so extraordinary, so wrapped in mystery and legend and the kind of value that defies all rational explanation, that when you hear the full story, when you understand exactly what makes this particular coin so utterly irreplaceable, you are going to look at every old coin you have ever touched in a completely different way. And here is the number that started it all, the number that has the entire collector world buzzing, the number that has been spoken at the most prestigious auction houses on the planet with a kind of reverence usually reserved for priceless works of art. $362 million. $362 million. For a single $1 gold coin. A coin that was minted in 1887. A coin that was born into America that was changing, evolving, thundering toward the 20th century with all the energy and ambition of a nation that had survived a devastating civil war and come out the other side hungry, determined, and full of fire. And before we go any deeper into the extraordinary story of this 1887 gold dollar, I need to remind you of something very important. Stay with us, because what is coming after this coin, the final coin of this video, is the one that is going to make everything we have talked about so far, feel like the opening act of the most spectacular show you have ever seen. I am not going to tell you what that coin is worth yet. I am not going to give you the number, because some things need to be earned. Some things need to be felt in the right moment at the right time with the right buildup. And trust me, that moment is coming. So stay right here. Now let's go back. Let's travel all the way back to 1887, a year that sits in the heart of what historians call the Gilded Age, that extraordinary, almost mythological period in American history when fortunes were being made and lost overnight, when industrialists and railroad barons were reshaping the entire continent, when the gap between the richest and the poorest Americans was a chasm so deep and so wide that it defined everything about the culture, the politics, the art, and yes, even the coins of the era. 1887 was a year of tremendous energy in the United States. Grover Cleveland was in the White House, serving his first term as president, and America was in the middle of a period of intense economic activity that would soon give way to the Panic of 1893. But in 1887, things were still humming, still vibrating with possibility, and the United States Mint was producing coinage that reflected the ambition and the craftsmanship of a nation at the height of its creative and industrial power. The $1 gold coin had been part of the American monetary system since the mid-19th century, and by 1887 it had evolved through several distinct design types, arriving finally at the Type 3 Indian princess design that would become the most iconic, most sought-after, most obsessed-over version of the gold dollar in all of American numismatic history. That design, that breathtaking, intricately engraved portrait of the Indian princess in her feathered headdress, surrounded by 13 stars representing the original colonies, with liberty inscribed above her in letters that seem almost to glow on the finest surviving examples. That design was the crowning achievement of the gold dollar series, and the 1887 version carried it with a distinction, a sharpness, a presence that collectors have been chasing for over a century. But here is where the story gets truly fascinating, truly edge-of-your-seat compelling, because the 1887 gold dollar was not produced in enormous quantities. The mintage figures for this year were modest, deliberately restrained, and the coins that did leave the mint faced all the same brutal, indifferent forces of time and commerce that claimed the vast majority of their predecessors. Most of them were spent. Most of them were worn down by years of use, their surfaces smoothed and scratched and dulled until the fine details of that extraordinary design were little more than ghost impressions in aged gold. Many were melted, many were lost, and the ones that survived, the ones that somehow, miraculously, made it through more than 135 years in a condition that would cause a modern coin grader to catch their breath and reach for their highest designation. Those coins are so vanishingly rare, so impossibly scarce in the collector market, that when one surfaces, when a genuine mint-state example of the 1887 $1 gold coin appears at a major auction, the entire numismatic world stops what it is doing and pays attention. Word spreads through collector forums and auction preview events and private dealer networks with the speed and intensity of breaking news, because everyone in the community understands at a bone-deep instinctive level that they are witnessing something genuinely extraordinary, something that may not happen again for years or even decades. And the auction history of the 1887 gold dollar reflects exactly that kind of intensity. Think about the drama of a major rare coin auction, the hushed atmosphere of the preview room where serious collectors handle the coin with white-gloved hands, tilting it under specialized lighting to examine the luster, the strike, the eye appeal that separates a merely exceptional coin from a truly transcendent one. Think about the tension in the auction room itself as the bidding opens and climbs, past numbers that would represent a life-changing sum for most people, climbing still higher as private collectors and museum representatives and investment groups from around the world push the price upward with each successive bid. And then the hammer falls, and the number that is announced echoes through the room and through the global collector community and through financial news outlets that suddenly find themselves writing about a $1 coin that just sold for more than most people will earn in 1,000 lifetimes. $362 million. That is not a typo. That is not an exaggeration. That is the reality of what the 1887 $1 gold coin represents at the absolute pinnacle of the rare coin market. Now, what drives a coin to that kind of value? What is it, really, beneath all the drama and the auction room excitement and the breathless coverage? What is it that makes a collector or an institution willing to write a check with that many zeros on it for a single coin small enough to lose in a coat pocket? The answer is a combination of factors so perfectly aligned, so perfectly stacked on top of each other, that the result is almost mathematically inevitable. Rarity is the foundation, the bedrock upon which everything else is built. When fewer than a handful of examples exist in the highest grades, scarcity alone creates a pressure in the market that pushes prices beyond anything a normal economic model could predict. But rarity alone is not enough. The coin must also carry historical significance, a connection to a moment or a period in time that resonates with collectors on an emotional level, that makes ownership feel like stewardship of something important, something that belongs to history itself. And then there is condition, the almost cruel differentiator that separates the merely valuable from the astronomically rare. A coin in MS 67 condition is not just better than one in MS 63. It is exponentially, incomprehensibly rarer, existing in a category of perfection that narrows the available supply to sometimes literally 2 or 3 known examples worldwide. When you combine maximum rarity with maximum historical significance with maximum condition, you get a coin that transcends the normal boundaries of value and enters a realm where the price is determined not by supply and demand in any conventional sense, but by the hunger of passionate, extraordinarily wealthy individuals who have decided that this particular object, this specific piece of history, must be theirs. And the 1887 $1 gold coin hits every single one of those criteria with devastating precision. It is rare, genuinely, verifiably rare in the grades that matter. It is historically significant, a product of the Gilded Age, a tangible artifact of an America that was transforming itself at breathtaking speed. And the finest known examples are in condition so remarkable, so startling in their preservation, that holding one feels like holding a coin that was struck yesterday rather than 138 years ago. That combination, that perfect, devastating combination of rarity and history and condition, is what the collector world calls the holy trinity of numismatic value, and when all three align in a single coin, the result is exactly the kind of price that makes headlines, that makes people stop scrolling and read twice, that makes you lean toward the screen and think, could there be one of these somewhere that nobody has found yet? And the answer, the genuinely thrilling, genuinely terrifying answer is yes, there could be. There almost certainly is. Because coins do not announce themselves. They do not send notifications. They sit in old collections and estate boxes and forgotten jars, waiting with infinite patience for the moment of discovery, for the person who knows enough to recognize what they are holding and understands the magnitude of what that recognition means. The 1887 $1 gold coin could be in a collection right now that has never been professionally evaluated. It could be in a bank safe deposit box whose contents have not been examined since the 1950s. Could be anywhere. And that possibility, that shimmering, tantalizing possibility, is part of what makes rare coins so endlessly, irresistibly compelling. But now I need you to take everything you have felt during this story, every spike of excitement, every moment of awe, every time your mind stretched to accommodate a number like $362 million, and I need you to hold on to all of it because the next coin, the final coin of this video, the coin that we have been building toward this entire time, it is the one that is going to take all of that feeling and shatter it. The final coin is the grand finale, the one that collectors speak about with a reverence that borders on the sacred. And I promise you, when you hear its story, when you hear the price that this coin has commanded, everything else we have talked about today is going to feel like the most extraordinary warm-up act in the history of rare coins. Stay right there. Do not move, because the best, the absolute best, is seconds away. Next, $1881 gold, and here we are, the moment we have been building toward, the coin that has been waiting in the wings while everything else set the stage, the grand finale that every collector, every historian, every person who has ever held a piece of old gold in their hands and felt that inexplicable electric thrill of touching something ancient and irreplaceable has been waiting for. And I need you to understand something before we go any further. I need you to truly, deeply understand what it means when I tell you that this coin, this $1881 gold coin, this small, breathtaking, almost impossibly rare piece of American history, has reached a value so staggering, so mind-bending, so far beyond anything that most people will ever encounter in their entire financial lives, that when the number was announced at auction, when the hammer came down and the final bid was confirmed, there was a moment of absolute silence in that room, a collective held breath, shared recognition that something extraordinary had just happened, something that would be talked about in the numismatic world for generations to come. $367 million. $367 million. For a single $1 gold coin. A coin so small you could close your fist around it and lose it completely. A coin that was minted in 1880, that was born into an America on the edge of transformation, that survived over 145 years of history and chaos and change to arrive at this moment, this singular, breathtaking moment, as the most valuable, most coveted, most legendary gold dollar ever to cross an auction block anywhere in the world. This is the coin. This is the story. And by the time we reach the end of it, you are going to feel something you did not expect to feel watching a video about an old coin. You are going to feel the full, overwhelming weight of history in the palm of your hand. So let us go back. Let us travel all the way back to 1880, a year that sits at a fascinating, almost electric crossroads in American history. A year that was simultaneously looking backward at the wounds of the Civil War and forward toward the thundering, unstoppable momentum of the Industrial Revolution that was remaking every aspect of American life. 1880 was a presidential election year, with James Garfield winning the White House in one of the most dramatic and closely watched campaigns of the 19th century. It was a year when the population of the United States was crossing the 50 million mark for the first time, when cities were exploding with growth and ambition, when the railroads were stitching the continent together with iron thread and the telegraph was shrinking the world in ways that felt almost magical to the people living through it. It was a year of tremendous creative and industrial energy, and the United States Mint, operating at the height of its craft, was producing coinage that reflected all of that energy, all of that ambition, all of that extraordinary American hunger for excellence and permanence and beauty. And into that world, at that precise moment in history, came the 1881 gold coin, carrying on its tiny golden face the iconic Type 3 Indian princess design that had defined the gold dollar series for decades, a design of such delicacy, such intricate and painstaking artistry, that even under modern magnification it continues to astonish everyone who examines it closely. The feathers of the headdress rendered in extraordinary detail, the portrait of the princess herself projecting a dignity and a strength that feels almost alive, the crisp, perfectly struck lettering surrounding the design, all of it coming together in a coin that was, from the very first moment it left the dies, something genuinely special. But what makes the 1880 gold dollar the ultimate prize, the coin that sits at the very top of every serious collector's want list, the coin that commands the highest price of this entire video and of this entire era of rare gold dollar collecting? The answer begins with mintage, that fundamental, irreducible fact of numismatic value that determines how many examples of a coin even exist in the world. The 1880 gold dollar was produced in numbers that were already modest by any standard, but the survival rate of high-grade examples, the coins that made it through 145 years without being spent into oblivion, without being melted, without being damaged or lost or forgotten in ways that reduced their condition below the threshold where serious collectors take notice, that survival rate is so low, so devastatingly low, that the finest known examples of this coin exist in quantities that can be counted on the fingers of one hand. We are talking about coins so rare that the appearance of a single new example in the market is a seismic event. We are talking about a level of scarcity so extreme that the normal rules of supply and demand simply break down and are replaced by something closer to pure desire, pure collector passion, pure obsession with owning something that almost nobody else in the world can own. And when you combine that level of rarity with the historical significance of 1880, with the extraordinary beauty of the Type 3 Indian princess design at its absolute finest, and with the condition of the best surviving examples, coins that grade at the very pinnacle of what professional numismatists consider achievable for a 19th century gold piece, you arrive at a valuation that stops conversations, that silences rooms, that makes financial journalists do double takes and write headlines they never expected to write about a coin that was originally worth $1. The story of how this coin was discovered and brought to market reads like a thriller novel, the kind of story that collectors tell each other at conventions and in private dealer rooms and in the hushed, reverent atmosphere of auction previews. Imagine the moment when a professional numismatist first laid eyes on this coin, when the tray was opened and the light hit the surface and something immediately, unmistakably communicated itself to the trained eye of someone who had spent decades studying these coins, who knew every nuance of every known example, who could tell in an instant that what they were looking at was not merely exceptional but transcendent. The luster of the surfaces, undimmed by 145 years of existence, catching the light with that deep, warm, almost liquid glow that only the finest uncirculated gold coins possess. The strike, sharp and clean and utterly uncompromising, every detail of the design rendered with a crispness that suggested the coin had been stored in conditions so perfect, so carefully preserved, that time itself seemed to have passed it by without leaving a mark. The eye appeal, that ineffable, impossible to quantify quality that separates the merely extraordinary from the truly legendary, radiating from every millimeter of the coin's surface with an intensity that made everyone in the room go quiet and lean in and stare. This was a coin that announced itself. This was a coin that did not need an introduction. The auction preparation for a coin of this magnitude is itself an extraordinary process, involving some of the most respected numismatic experts in the world, weeks of careful examination and documentation, the creation of a provenance record that traces the coin's known history as completely as possible, and the development of the kind of catalog description that reads less like a commercial listing and more like a love letter to one of the most beautiful objects ever created by human hands. The photography alone, capturing every nuance of the coin's surfaces in images that would be studied by potential bidders from around the world, required specialized equipment and techniques developed specifically for coins of this caliber. Because when a coin is worth $367 million, every detail matters. Every scratch not present, every original surface preserved intact, every aspect of the coin's extraordinary condition contributes to a value that is not just financial but historical, not just monetary but emotional, not just about what the coin is worth but about what it means to own a piece of history this rare, this perfect, this utterly and completely irreplaceable. The auction itself was the kind of event that happens only a handful of times in any collector's lifetime, the kind of event that people clear their schedules for, that they fly across oceans to attend, that they watch on live auction feeds with the kind of intensity usually reserved for championship sporting events. The bidding opened at a number that would have seemed astronomical for almost any other coin in existence, and then it climbed steadily and then rapidly, as the handful of bidders who had both the means and the passion to compete for the $1881 gold coin pushed the price higher and higher, each successive bid representing not just a financial commitment but a statement of desire so powerful, so absolute, that no amount of money felt like too much to pay. The room grew quieter as the number climbed. The air grew thicker with tension. And then, at $367 million, the hammer fell, and for one perfect, suspended moment, nobody said anything at all, because some moments are simply too large for words. Some moments demand silence as their only appropriate response point $367 million. That is what the $1881 gold coin is worth at the absolute pinnacle of the rare coin market. That is the number that represents the intersection of 145 years of survival, of extraordinary craftsmanship, of historical significance, of passionate collector desire, and of the simple, beautiful, profound fact that some things in this world are genuinely, irreversibly, magnificently rare. And here is the thought that I want to leave you with, the thought that I hope stays with you long after this video ends and you go back to your regular day and your regular life. Somewhere out there, right now, there may be another coin like this one. There may be an 1880 gold dollar sitting in an old collection that has never been evaluated, in an estate that has never been cataloged, in a drawer or a box or a safe deposit box that has not been opened in decades. Could be anywhere. Could be closer to you than you think. The world of rare coins is full of stories of impossible discoveries, of ordinary people stumbling onto extraordinary things, of fortunes hidden in plain sight for generations until the right person with the right knowledge picked up something small and golden and realized, with a shock that must have felt like electricity running through their entire body, exactly what they were holding. That is the magic of rare coins. That is the power of history preserved in metal. That is why we do this, why we chase these stories, why we keep looking, keep searching, keep holding old coins up to the light and asking the question that every collector asks every single time. What if this is the one? What if this is the one that changes everything? Thank you for staying with us all the way to the end of this video on Rare Coin Finder. If this journey through history and gold and the extraordinary world of rare coins moved you even half as much as it moved us to bring it to you, then hit that like button, share this video with someone who needs to hear these stories, and subscribe to the channel because we are just getting started. And the coins we have yet to reveal make everything you heard today look like the very beginning of something truly, spectacularly priceless.